Welcome to the Fittish Dad Podcast. I am your host, Caleb Bowers. Hey everybody, thanks for joining in this week to another edition of the mobile Fittish Dad Podcast. I am currently on my lunch break, and I brought my lunch today. I had some rice and ground beef that I had prepared for as meal prep, but I am running up to Quick Trip that's just down the road from my office to get me a drink, and I may get me a little snack or something. I don't know. I'm still hungry after the rice and ground beef, which is good for me and it saves me money. But I still want a little treat. I think I deserve a little treat. But welcome to obviously our second episode of the mobile edition version series, whatever, of the Fittish Dad Podcast. I know last week, if anybody noticed, so we missed an episode last week because life has been a little hectic for me, starting as of last week. Through a couple different situations, we have decided that we're going to sell our house, and just with how the economy is and some spending habits we need to fix, we are taking a step back from a lot of things in order to be able to save money to plan better for the future. But here we are. So I got that handled, got my business handled. Now I can get back to working towards things for the future. So here we are talking. So today, two things I want to talk about. Well, it's one thing I want to talk about, but two different sides of it. And the first one I want to talk about is I want to spend some time talking about nutrition and, healthy eating, dieting, all that sort of stuff when it comes to, as a runner, but also as just a father and someone who works a full-time job, just all the things that go into it and what healthy eating actually looks like. Because there's so much information out there when it comes to nutrition, and there's so many fads and trends that come and go all the time with dieting and, oh, you should eat this, oh, don't eat that, oh, only eat this, never eat that, all sorts of things. And when I was getting, for those who don't know, I am a certified nutritionist that I got certified through the International Sports and Sciences Association, ISSA. It was like I think the whole class took me like 6-7 months to do. It was very deep and covered all subjects of things nutrition, not just sports specific nutrition, but just nutrition in general, how the body works, how food as fuel, and how that reacts and how different things react within the body, and just total nutrition, not just sport specific nutrition. But I've realized is that so many things through all my research and education and all that sort of stuff, I've learned that a lot of what we're told about nutrition and about food and about what foods are good for us or bad for us are either marketing, like just really, really good marketing, or there's even political reasons behind it. With the FDA and all sorts of things. Like, for the longest time, everybody told us that just sugar was bad, and you should do high fructose corn syrup, and then we were told that was bad and sugar was better, and then flip-flop, which had to do a lot with different lobbying, political lobbying, and different things like that for people all just trying to make money. Carbs are bad, fats are bad, so you have keto diet, or you have when non-fat foods like non-fat yogurt and all that sort of thing. But it was all misconceptions, and it was all mostly money based, greed based, because if you say that this is the way, this is the perfect way, this is the perfect food, this is uh you know like the keto is supposed to be the end all be all, like do this and you'll be perfect and skinny and look hot and feel great and all those sort of things. And while a lot of those things, can initially work, most of it is just something that's either one, not sustainable, or it's just a flat out lie. It's a marketing tactic to get you to buy it, um, to get you to buy into the program, to buy into the certain type of food, whatever it may be. My favorite thing is like with the and they still make them, but it's not as like pushed. But like they have the reduced thing, like the chips, like reduced fat chips or something like that, like the baked Lays and Fritos and hot Cheetos and all that sort of thing, and like with the reduced fat, whatever. But it's funny because like potato chips in general, I mean, they have some fat, but they're not necessarily a high fat food. That's not where um, a lot of like the problem with eating a bunch of chips is the fact that it's got fat in it. It's more in the fact that it's just got highly processed ingredients in it that your body has a hard time dealing with. But the reduced fat chips are higher calorie than just the regular ones. So you could eat all the reduced fat chips you want and gain weight if you ate the same amount of reduced fat chips as you did in normal chips. Um, you would probably gain more weight, at least mathematically, because eating more calories than you burn is how you gain weight. And you can gain more weight eating the same amount of reduced fat chips than you do regular chips. Or another one is like cauliflower crust. I remember my wife was real big on cauliflower. Oh, it's better for you. Cauliflower crust is better for you um, because it's cauliflower vegetable, but it had like twice the calories of the regular crust because of the ingredients they have to put to make cauliflower make a crust. And so it's always funny because most of it is just a marketing ploy. Most of it is just an emotional ploy to get you to buy a product because people want your money, or because they have a hard time, with just self control. Because that's what it comes down to. That's what it all boils down to. I mean, your health in general, and is obviously your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health, and how that plays, and how nutrition and how your eating habits play a big role in that. It all comes down to self control. Your ability to control your mouth, control your impulses, control your emotions, at least how you react or how you respond to your emotions. Because I know for one, I am a huge, and I don't think guys talk about it a lot. I am a big emotional eater. I'm a big stress eater. And I think men in general struggle with it a lot because they use it as a way to they eat their feelings quite literally. You feel all these terrible things, you feel a lot of stress, and you just want to bury it down. And so you are somewhat like burying it down using the food. You're literally stuffing food down your gullet to as almost it almost symbolizes you stuffing down those feelings because you don't want to face them, because whatever it is, because you feel like if you do it makes you weak, or if you face those issues or face those feelings, and then you find out the truth that maybe you are inadequate. Maybe all your worst fears about yourself are true. I know that's what my biggest thing is it's not like is it's not that if I face these things, um, what if I find out I'm wrong about myself? It's what if I find out my worst fears about myself are true? What if I found out all the worst things I think about myself are actually true? Um, and so I struggle a lot with binge eating and overeating because of obviously just internal emotional turmoil. And so, sorry, I'll fix my camera real quick. So that's what I want to talk about today. And so, first things first, when it comes to nutrition, there is no secret. There's no secret diet. There's no do this. This is the one thing you need to do. Only eat this. Don't eat that. It's not a end all be all one size fits all thing. It's something that's very individual per person because each person's body can handle or react in different ways because of metabolism. There's just so many variables. There's so many variables that go into it. And so let's just break down in terms of what the actual sciences and things proven when it comes to nutrition. So it's pretty simple to gain weight. So let's talk about the big three. Let's talk about calories, macronutrients, and micronutrients. Sorry, I'm holding my phone, so that's why it's moving so much because I can't. We're obviously in the middle of packing and stuff. I have all these boxes, and I don't know where my actual phone holder is. So I'm just holding it the old-fashioned way. But let's talk about the three big ones: calories, macronutrients, and micronutrients. So obviously, calories control how much you weigh. So if you eat less, if you consume less calories than you burn, you will lose weight. If you consume more calories than you burn, you will gain weight. Now, your micronutrients determine how that weight looks. If you have a higher protein diet, so meaning like a lot of those extra calories are coming from from protein, you'll have a better muscle tone and a better, how those muscles will form and everything like that, because protein is the building blocks of muscle. If you have more carbs, you'll look a certain way. If you have more fats, it'll look a certain way. And that's why you can have somebody, like if you give a bodybuilder, if a bodybuilder and an ultra marathon runner eat the same amount of calories per day, but their macronutrients and what they're focused on are very different from one another because of what's necessary for sport specific training. And so, the ultra marathoner will focus more on carbohydrates than anything else because that's what's necessary in order to be able to run and perform in their sport because of their muscle needs for glycogen and carbohydrates as fuel and everything like that, than like a bodybuilder who has a more balanced approach to a lot of those things, but is more focused on protein more than anything because they're working on building muscle. And so it just depends on those macronutrients will determine how that body is shaped and how it looks. And then I said calories will help, are the biggest factor in controlling weight. Now there's also medical factors. I'm talking about just for the average person who has no medical issues that are affecting any of this. And that's why there's so many variables, and it's not just a one size fits all thing but this is just the basic science behind nutrition. And then micronutrients determine how those first two make you feel. So the calories to control how much you weigh, macronutrients control how that weight looks, and micronutrients determine how that weight feels. So micronutrients talking about vitamins, minerals, all those sorts of things. If you are lacking in specific vitamins or minerals, you will feel a certain way. Like people who have low iron, they'll feel lethargic. They feel like they just don't have the energy, or like their energy runs out very quickly. If you have a vitamin B deficiency, you have low energy. If you have a vitamin C deficiency, you get sick a lot. All these sorts of different things. Those micronutrients determine how you feel, which is why I post a lot of the micro or the vitamins and everything that I take every day, because those help me support, number one, because it's really hard to get all the vitamins and minerals you need through just your average diet, even if you have a very well-rounded diet, just because there are so many things that the body needs, and because of how so highly processed things can be, it can be very difficult to get all those in without just over consuming on calories. And so that's why I take a multivitamin plus some other different micronutrient things such as prebiotic, probiotic, fish oils, all those different things, because those help supplement a lot of those deficiencies that I don't get just from my regular food. And those help me feel better every day. So that way I can, my body will be able to perform better because it feels better. And it's not because you need to be properly fueled, but your body also needs to be able to properly process that fuel, which is where a lot of those micronutrients come into play. So calories determine how you look. Macronutrients determine never mind. Sorry, scratch that. Calories determine how much you weigh. Macronutrients, it's a lot of words. Peace. Okay, one more time. Calories determine how much you weigh. Macronutrients determine how that weight looks. And micronutrients determine how that weight feels. So just to make that is the basis of what we're just talking about. That is an overhaul of, obviously, like I said, there's a lot of different variables. There's a lot of different things that can go into each of those things by on a person by person basis, because like it's not a one size fits all thing, because everybody's different. Everybody's body reacts different to different things. There are some things that I can eat that don't affect my body that somebody else, that my wife will eat and will make her feel sick or will hurt her stomach or something like that. And it just depends on the person. So you have to look at it through your own lens, but you just need to understand the basic sciences behind it and figure out through those things what works best for you, because it depends on, like I said, so many factors. Now, secondly, after understanding that, is to stop viewing food as good or bad. Now, food is just fuel. All food is fuel. There is efficient fuel and there is inefficient fuel. When you go to the gas pump, there's different levels of fuel. There's or different fuel ratings. I forgot, like 83, 87, 93, 85, 87, 93, whatever it means, the octane levels. And that is the how refined that fuel is, how pure that fuel is. And the purer the fuel is, the more expensive it is, because it burns cleaner. It's just a better quality fuel. Same thing with food is all fuel. Said now 100 calories of a hamburger will cause you to weigh the same as 100 calories or so. This probably, if your diet consists, if you have a 2,000 calorie budget for your diet and you eat 2,000 calories of fast food, you will weigh the same as someone who eats 2,000 calories of kale every day. Now, because calories determine weight, how that weight will look will be vastly different. Number two, because of the macronutrient of fast food versus kale. But the biggest one is how those calories will feel because of the micronutrients. Said you will probably feel a lot better because of the micronutrients in eating kale, or just super healthy, 2,000 calories of super healthy. And I say super healthy, let's change healthy to not say super healthy, but to say nutritious, because it has a lot of vitamins, a lot of minerals, a lot of good things that help your body run efficiently and help your body feel good. Now, also to consider is how much fast food you could eat to hit 2,000 calories is considerably less in terms of just sheer volume of food than 2,000 calories of very clean and nutritious food, of whole foods, like I said, of vegetables and fruits and meats and everything like that. Because the ultra processed foods involved in fast food are just so calorically dense. They are so dense because of everything that's been processed to make those foods so they can last longer, cook faster, taste better because of the things that they put in them. They don't actually really taste better, but the chemicals in them react away in your brain, much like drugs do. It reacts. I think there's, and I could be wrong, but I think I saw a study where it was like the chemical reactions in your brain when you eat like a bunch of fast food, processed food, is very similar to those who like. I know this is for fact a study. I just can't remember like what drug they're talking about, but like the same reaction to your brain like on cocaine or some type of stimulant drug. I just can't remember which one it is. And so you will probably be miserable, not only because of all the lack of micronutrients and the processed foods and chemicals in the food and how those react to your body, but it also just won't be that much food. So you'll still be hungry, which is why even at like fast food, why you so tend to overeat is because of the dense caloric proportions of the food are disproportionate to the size of the food. So, what you think would be a meal that would make you full is actually 3 or 4 meals worth of calories. And it just causes you to overeat because you will think, I am not eating that much, because you're not stuffing yourself. You're not making yourself, quote unquote, sick with eating. Like, oh, I didn't eat that much. All I had was this. But in that in that small amount of food, you consumed 1,400 calories for one meal, which, even for me as someone who trains heavily and burns a lot of calories because of running, that still would be 2 meals worth of food in one sitting. And I probably am not like overly full. I'm going to be hungry again in like 2 or 3 hours. So it's important that you focus on how you look at it this way. It's the same thing. I've talked about it when I talked about time. Obviously, is you have a budget. Everything in this world, there's a limited amount that will work for you, that you need to know how, or need to figure out what fits in your budget. You have a calorie budget. If you're, depending on what you're wanting to do, if you're wanting to lose weight, you have a calorie budget because you need to find out, okay, on average, this is my average level of physical activity. This is the average amount of calories I'm burning in a day. So that means I need to eat, and I want to say 800. Like if you budget, and it's not necessarily day by day, but it's by weeks. So like if you want to lose 1 pound a week, 1 to 1.5 pounds a week, which is a very healthy goal, which will allow you to not hurt yourself or starve yourself, or start overtraining, is I think 850 calorie deficit for the week. So you figure out, okay, I burn an average of, like me, I burn an average of probably about 2,800 to 3,000 calories a day. And that's including heavy run days and rest days. So that average, it may be higher one day, it may be lower one day. But for a week, on average, 2,800 to 3,000 calories a day. And so right now, I'm not trying to lose weight. I'm actually trying to maintain weight, because I am training for something and I need my body to be able to be at its fullest potential in terms of how it handles all that activity and all that training. So I try to eat just as is pretty much offset the calories I'm burning, or even just a little bit more. Some days, like on recovery days, I try to eat more because my body is recovering. It needs to rebuild all those muscles that have been broken down and beaten up through all the training. And so I will tend to eat more calories, or just as much or more calories than I'm burning on average, because that's what I need for my training currently. Now, if you're trying to lose weight and you need to have that 850 to, I think, 1,000. And it all depends on, I said, each person's different. It's not an exact science, and by exact science, I mean the numbers aren't exact because it depends on so many factors. so many biological factors. Some people just naturally have more muscle density, and so they are able to they burn more calories naturally, and so it just depends on the person. But roughly 850 to 1,000 calorie deficit per week. Now, if you average you burn 24, 25, 2,600 calories a day, then you probably want to eat 2,000 to I would say like 150 to 250 calories less per day than you're burning, because you want something that's sustainable. Now it's going to take longer. If you want to lose 10, 15 pounds, it's going to take you 2, 3, 4 months, but it's something that's sustainable, and it's something that allows life to happen, and it's it's achievable without having to beat yourself up mentally and emotionally, because like, oh, I did so bad today. Oh, I need to be in a 4 or 5, 600, 700 calorie deficit per day. Just a lot of things that are just create mentally and emotionally unhealthy thought cycles that keep you trapped, which is why you gain weight, lose weight, gain weight, lose weight, gain weight, because you're like, oh, I'm going to lose weight, and then you get real focused on it, and then you lose the weight, but you actually didn't fix any of the issues that caused you to gain all that weight, and so you just go back to it. It's just a cycle back and forth. I know, because that's my own struggle. It's like, okay, I'm going to do this diet real strict for 45 days, 60 days, lose 20, 30 pounds, because you practically starved yourself. Then you're like, oh, I did it. And then you're done. You're like, oh, and then you're like, oh, I'll just start, okay, I'll allow myself to do this. And next thing you know, you're back to your bad eating habits, because you traded one bad habit for another. You traded a bad habit of overeating for a bad habit of undereating, and under fueling. Especially for my athletes out there, anybody that's doing any type of physical training. I know a lot of runners, but bodybuilders, obviously any sports, said your nutrition needs to be based on fueling your body for training and performance. And you need to get over the aesthetic, obviously not the aesthetic part for bodybuilders, because literally the aesthetic part is their job. So that's obviously a separate category, but just athletes in general, in terms of like sports, running, everything like that. Don't focus on the aesthetics. Focus in the aesthetics of how you look, but you need to fuel yourself for performance. In the off season, when then you could focus on your aesthetics, because if you want your body to look a very specific sort of way, because you have the time to be, and your body can take a break from the hard training in order to focus more on the nutritional part to get your body to look a certain way. But when you're training, like I'm training for my 100 miler in December, I can't also train to look like I'm about to compete in a amateur bodybuilding show. I mean, and I know there's that hybrid athlete thing and all that sort of stuff, but I can't focus on that. You have to do one or the other. And most of the time, like with the hybrid athlete, and you see these really ripped guys with low body fat percentages, but they're like 220 pounds of 7% body fat, and just absolutely ripped, look like Hercules, but they're still running sub 3 hour marathons and stuff like that. It said, number one, most of those guys, they focused heavily and spent years building up their body first before getting heavily into the running. But you can't build both at the same time. You can only build one at a time. You can do both. It just takes time, and you have to focus on one and then the other. So you'd be focused on building the body, then building your endurance, then building the body, then building your endurance. And you can do it however, but you can't do both at the same time, unless I mean, you just really can't. Even people who have, it's their job and can devote their entire life to it, can't do both at the same time. That's why even like guys that I look up to, like Nick Bear, you look at his stuff and he'll train for one of the things at a time. It's like, I say, he did bodybuilding prep and a bodybuilding training for a bodybuilding show. And then he ran an ultra. And then he did this. And then he ran this. So he wasn't doing all those training all the time. He focused on one, And then when he did it, then he turned his focus on the other, to where he was building both of them up, but at separate times. So it just takes time, and it takes, you have to focus on one before you can focus on the other. But that's just my thoughts on the whole hybrid athlete stuff. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but for most people, it just is something that is, I think people can think that it's something that they can do easily, but it takes a lot of time to build up that hybrid athlete. What that means is, like, it's like, I saw one where it's like the trend was squat 500 pounds and then run a 5-minute mile or something like that. I don't know. But since like that type of, to build up those type of training or those type of abilities, it takes time, and you have to be able to focus on both, but separately. So we talked about, obviously, just the basics of nutrition, the calories, macronutrients, micronutrients. We talked about, what's required in terms of, or how to approach your eating in terms of what you eat, not good or bad foods, that it's just fuel. Now, you want to give yourself the best fuel possible because you want to be able to fuel what you're doing. Stop leaning on food as an emotional crutch. I know I do. We eat a lot of times when we feel bad. Sorry, I'm hitting the microphone. We eat a lot of times when we feel bad because we want it to make us feel better. That's why we crave junk food so much. It's because we're craving the dopamine hits from eating, the ice cream or eating the chips or whatever it may be, because we feel bad and we want to get a pick-me-up. And not that that's always a bad thing, because sometimes it can be very helpful if you're just like, it's been a rough day. I'm going to get me some Reese's just to eat and, give me a little pick-me-up because it's just been a rough day, and this will help make me feel better. And then having one piece of candy, okay, not a big deal. Where it begins to be a problem is when you also just ate a full meal at McDonald's, and you're going to eat 4 packages of the candy instead of a serving size of the candy, and next thing you know, you've consumed 4,000 calories in about 2 hours, and that's where problems begin. And then you feel it's funny because then the food also makes you feel terrible, so then you want more of it to give you the pick me up. And that's why I said it's like a drug. It's like that, cocaine and stuff like that, where it's the sickness and it's the cure and the disease. It's like you have your disease is you feel bad, so you take the cure, which is drugs, but the drugs make you feel bad, so you need more of the cure, which is the disease. So you got to break that cycle, and you got to get out of that emotional eating and realize, number one, it's okay to, like, negative feelings aren't bad. So don't let them control how you react and what you consume. But that is how the emotional, the physical, and everything is tied into the nutrition, because it's so important to realize that you can't do one without the other. You can't be physically healthy and emotionally healthy if you don't have good eating habits, because your eating habits it's a two-way correlation, meaning how you what you're able, how you feel physically and emotionally is tied into what you eat, and what you eat is a lot of times tied into how you're handling your physical and emotional health. So if one is off, always make sure you check on the other to make sure that they're lining up and that your food is fueling your purpose. And what I mean by purpose is what you are looking to do with your life, whether it be training for a marathon, whether it be training to be a bodybuilder, whether it be training to play sports, whether it be just to have to feel good and be healthy and be able to play with your kids and not feel like crap. Have, for my guys out there, have a feel good in the bedroom. Food plays a lot into your libido and your ability to, enjoy the fruits of your wife. Let's just put it that way. So that's all plays into part into what you're eating, because it affects your testosterone, affects your hormone levels, affects your emotional levels, affects how you look and feel physically. And that's why it's so important to nail down your nutrition and really figure out a plan and then execute the plan. So that's all I got for today, guys, in this week. So thank you for joining in to this episode of the Fittest Dad podcast. We will not be missing another episode, even if we have to do more of these mobile episodes, which with the move, we may have to. But thank you for joining, and I'll see you next week.